Dear children, today we are going to discuss about the process of blood circulation. It's a biological process. Uh, you know, in your body there are various materials to be transported. For example, oxygen get into your lungs, uh, diffuse into the blood capillaries. Then this oxygen should be transported to the blood body cells. And in the body cells, various kinds of waste materials are produced: carbon dioxide, water vapor, and various kinds of salt. They should be transported up to the excretory organs. In the previous lesson, even you learned. And the digested uh, food or the end products of the digestion of food should be absorbed and transported to the cells. This transportation of materials within the body is done by uh, blood, and the process of blood circulation is very important for the transportation of materials. Glucose, oxygen, like uh, substances produce energy in the body. So the glucose and oxygen should be transported up to the cells. This transportation is done by blood, and the waste matter produced in the cells are transported to the excretory organs. It is also by the blood. So the blood circulation is very important process in your body. When you take the uh, blood, it is a liquid connective tissue. It keeps the connection among all the systems in your body. It's a liquid connective tissue. The main function of the blood is transportation of material. Apart from that, there are some other functions of blood. It maintains the water content of your body and ionic balance in your body, acid base balance in your body, like homeostatic process. And also the blood uh, is important for your immunity, uh, to fight against the germs entering your body. That means the blood has a function of protection from various kinds of germs. Another function carried out by the blood is maintenance of body temperature, or the regulation of body temperature. They are the sub functions, extra functions. The main function is transportation of materials in the body. The human body, 6 to 8% of the body weight is blood. In a normal adult who is having the body mass of 60 kilogram, 5 to 6 liters of water, 5 to 6 liters of blood uh, containing within the body. When you take the blood, it has two main components: liquid component or the plasma, and corpuscles or the solid components. The liquid component plasma is about 55% of the blood, and 45% of the blood is corpuscles. It contains red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Corpuscles about 45%, plasma about 55%. The liquid part of the blood is plasma and the solid part is corpuscles. Red blood cells or the erythrocytes, white blood cells or the leukocytes, and platelets. In the plasma, mainly it contains water, and there are things soluble in water and things insoluble in water. You are going to learn about the blood in more detail. If you take 1 cubic millimeter of blood from a healthy person, it contains 5 to 6 millions of red blood cells and 4,000 to 11,000 white blood cells, 250,000 platelets. These are approximate values, not exact values. They may vary. Red blood cell is one of the corpuscles. It is also known as erythrocytes. The shape of the red blood cell is biconcave disc shape, and they are red in color. The reason for having the red color is uh, they have a pigment called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is red in color. Hemoglobin is important for transportation of oxygen. The hemoglobin in red blood cells have ability to combine with oxygen and at the lungs, and they can release oxygen at the cells. Once they are transported to the targeted area, oxygen is released by this hemoglobin. Red blood cells form the red bone marrows in your skeletal system, and they have a lifespan about 3 to 4 months, and they are destroyed in the liver. Right? They are red in color because of having hemoglobin. The shape of the red blood cells is biconcave disc shape, as you see on the screen. They are red in color because of having hemoglobin pigment. Hemoglobin is important for the transportation of oxygen. Hemoglobin has a ability to combine with oxygen in the lungs, and they are transported. They are transporting oxygen up to the cells. The lifespan of a red blood cell is about 4 months, and they are most probably destroyed in the liver. This is a smear of blood. If a blood drop from a person is taken and spread on a glass sheet and observed through the microscope, you can see the blood smear. Here you see red blood cells. The majority of the blood corpuscles is red blood cells. Here you see the large cells, the white blood cells. They are comparatively larger than red blood cells, but less in number. Here the white blood cells, and here the red blood cells. What you see here is the platelets. The platelets are not a kind of cells. It's a corpuscle, but not a kind of cell. They are fragments of cells. Broken parts of cells. Like you learn about the red blood cells. Then white blood cells, or the leukocytes. If you take 1 cubic millimeter of blood, it contains about 4,000 to 11,000 WBC. Compare less number. The ratio of red blood cells to white blood cell is 600:1. The ratio of the red blood cells or the RBC WBC is about 600:1. The size of the white blood cells is comparatively larger than the red blood cells. When you compare the red blood cells and white blood cells don't have nuclei, but a white blood cell contain a nucleus. The white blood cells also form in the bone marrows. They are really colorless. Though the name is white blood cells, they are colorless. There are two types of white blood cells: granulocytes and non-granulocytes. In the white blood cell, if the cytoplasm contain granules, we call them as granulocytes. There are three types of such white blood cells: neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil. They are granulocytes, kind of white blood cell. The other group of white blood cells is non-granulocytes or the agranulocytes. The cytoplasm doesn't contain granules. Two kinds of non-granulocytes, lymphocytes and monocytes. Here the granulocytes, the type of white blood cells called granulocytes: eosinophil, basophil, neutrophil. Here in the cell it has a nucleus and granules in the cytoplasm. The basophil also has a nucleus and granules. Neutrophil, it also contains granules, so that's why they are called as granulocytes. All these are white blood cells. These are agranulocytes or the non-granulocytes. They are of two types as monocytes and lymphocytes. They also contain nucleus but no granules in the cytoplasm. You can see clear cytoplasm. The lymphocyte, large nucleus and no granules in the cytoplasm. When you take the neutrophil, they are spherical in shape. If you take a blood sample, the percentage of neutrophil is 50 to 70%. Like the nucleus is divided into lobes, multi-lobes, and these cells can show amoeboid movements, just like the amoeba it can move. Neutrophil, by moving these cells, it can trap the germs and destroy. We call it the phagocytosis or engulfing of bacteria and digest them. They can destroy the microorganisms like bacteria. Eosinophil, also a kind of spherical shaped white blood cell, a granulocyte. The percentage is comparatively less, 1 to 4% of blood cells is eosinophil, white blood cells eosinophil. The nucleus contains only two lobes, bilobe nuclei. When a person is having allergy condition in the body, this eosinophil concentration or the number of eosinophil increases. Basophil, they are also spherical granulocyte, a kind of WBC. Percentage is very less, 0 to 1%. It has a large irregular shaped or irregularly lobed nuclei. They releases histamine causing allergy. When a person get an unusual kind of substance into the body, this basophil releases histamine and causing allergy condition. You learn three kinds of granulocytes and two kinds of agranulocytes. Lymphocyte is a kind of agranulocytes or the non-granulocytes. It has a large spherical nucleus at the center. The percentage of lymphocyte is 20 to 40%. The main function is producing of antibodies. When a certain germ enters into your body is protected by producing antibodies, so engulfing of bacteria, but here the lymphocyte produce antibodies. Monocytes is another kind of agranulocyte with the largest kind of white blood cell, 2 to 8%, spherical in shape, and the nucleus is bean seed shape. It also destroys the bacteria by engulfing. The children, you learn about two kinds of corpuscles, red blood cells and white blood cells. The third kind of corpuscle is not a kind of cell. Platelets are fragments of cells. They cannot be considered as cells because no nucleus and cytoplasm like. They are fragments. The platelets are very important for blood clotting. When you have an injury or bleeding, after short while the bleeding stops by making a temporary plug or blocking the bleeding place with a clot. Blood clotting occurs because of the platelets. If you take 1 cubic millimeter of blood, it contains about 150,000 to 400,000 platelets. But this number may vary according to health condition. When a person is suffering from viral influences like dengue or even the viral flu, this number may drastically decrease. The platelets are also formed in bone marrows. The lifespan is about 5 to 7 days. Then the liquid part of the blood is plasma. You learn 45% of the blood is corpuscles and 55% of blood is plasma. It is a pale yellow color or straw color liquid. Main content or 92% of plasma is water. The rest of 80% contain protein, minerals, gases or dissolved gases, hormones, nutrients, nitrogenous waste matter, enzymes, and various kinds of ions. They are also very essential for maintenance of life. These are the content of plasma, mainly water as a percentage 92%, protein like albumin, globulin, fibrinogen, and nutrients like monosaccharides, amino acids, fatty acids, glycerol, vitamins. In the previous lesson you learned these are the final products of food digestion. Vitamin is directly absorbed. Then various kinds of ions contain the plasma: sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, phosphate, sulfate, and bicarbonate like ions, and nitrogenous waste matter like urea, uric acid, creatinine, and dissolved gases, hormones, antibiotics, antigens, many more things. If I summarize the functions of blood, the main function of blood is transportation of material, especially the digested products and end products of respiratory gases, carbon dioxide, water vapor, excretory products, hormones, platelets, minerals, proteins like things are transported, and protecting the body against pathogens or the pathogenic microorganisms and maintaining chemical coordination and homeostasis. They are the main functions of blood. The children, if you take the human blood circulatory system, it consists of three main parts. One such is blood. The second part is blood vessels, and third part is the heart. Human blood circulatory system composed of three main components: blood, blood vessels, and heart. Blood is the medium for transportation. You learn about blood. This blood is transported within the body through a system of blood vessels. That is the pathway, the roadway that the blood is transported. The road system within your body, blood vessels. The third part is the heart. Heart is the engine that generates the required pressure for the circulation of blood. It gives the required pressure for circulation. If you take the blood vessels, they carry or they transport blood. In human body, blood is always circulating within the blood vessels. But there are some animals, the blood flows in cavities like cockroach, like insects. But in our body, blood flows through blood vessels. So our blood circulatory system is called a closed circulatory system. If there's a question for exam purposes like this, the human blood circulatory system is a closed system. Explain. In human body, blood circulates within blood vessels. That's why our blood circulatory system is called as closed circulatory system. Heart is the engine of your blood circulatory system that generates the required pressure for the circulation of blood. Your heart is located in the thoracic cavity, the upper cavity of the body, little left to the symmetrical axis in between two lungs. In between two lungs, little left to the symmetrical axis. The size of your heart is about your fist, about 250 to 450 grams. The shape is like a young king coconut. It is protected by your rib cage and some membranes around the heart. We call them as the pericardial membranes, protect the heart. What you see on the screen is the structure of heart. To study the heart in more detail, if you get a longitudinal section of heart, you can see four chambers. Four chambers. Upper chambers are small in size and the lower chambers are comparatively large in size. These upper chambers are known as atria. Upper chambers are known as atria. And the lower chambers are known as ventricles. In this diagram, these are the atria and these are the ventricles. In this diagram, these are the right side of the these are the left side of the heart and these are the right side of the heart. You'll be getting this confused if you think that this is the right side of your book or the screen, but this is the left side of the heart. You are drawing the heart of a person in front of you, right? This is the left side of the person in front of you and this is the right side of the person in front of you. So you have drawn here the heart of a person in front of you, right? This is the left side and this is the right side. So this one is called the right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. The walls of the ventricles are thicker than the walls of the atria. In this diagram it is very clear. The walls of the atria is less thicker than the walls of the ventricles. The reason, ventricles gives the required pressure for the circulation of blood throughout the body. By contraction of the walls of the ventricles, it generates the pressure required for the circulation of blood throughout the body. Right, this is what I told you. When you take a longitudinal section of heart, it has four chambers. The upper chambers are smaller than the lower chambers. The upper chambers are called atria and the lower chambers are called ventricles. And the walls of the lower chambers are thicker than the walls of upper chambers or the atria. But there are valves in between the atria and the ventricles. Here you can see a valve getting open and closed, another valve open and closing here. In this diagram it is very clear. The wall between right atrium and right ventricle is called tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve. Cuspid means having these uh, string-like structures. These are the cuspids. In this valve, there are three cuspids, so that's why it is called as tricuspid. And the valve in between left atrium and left ventricle is called as bicuspid. It has only two cuspids here. 1, 2, right? The valve in between right atrium and right ventricle is tricuspid, and the valve in between left atrium and left ventricle is bicuspid. Bicuspid valve is also known as mitral valve. We are discussing about the structure of the heart. Then it is very important to know the blood vessels carrying the blood towards the heart are known as the veins. And the vessels that carry the blood away from the heart are known as arteries. If I repeat it, vessels that carry the blood towards the heart are known as veins, and the vessels that carry blood away from the heart are known as arteries. When you consider the heart, six veins carrying blood to the atrium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One, 2, 3, 4. This one also open to the same. 5, 6. This vein carrying blood from the lower part of the body. This one. We call it as inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava. And this vein carrying the blood from the upper part of the body. We call it as superior vena cava. Inferior vena cava, superior vena cava. Carrying the blood to the right atrium. 4 blood vessels, 4 veins carrying the blood to the left atrium. These 2 vessels coming from the left lung. These 2 vessels carrying the blood from the right lung. And these 4 vessels are known as pulmonary veins. 4 pulmonary veins open into the left atrium. Accordingly, 6 veins open to the atria. 2 to the right atrium, 4 to the left atrium. Superior vena cava, inferior vena cava bring the blood to the right atrium. 4 pulmonary veins carrying the blood to the left atrium. Once the 2 atria filled with blood, tricuspid valve and bicuspid valve getting open, and the 2 atria get contract at once. Contraction of atria is known as systole. Once the 2 atria fill with blood, the 2 atria get contracted at once due to a nerve impulse, a signal. Contraction is called as systole. The systole of the atria takes place. Then the blood in the right atrium get into right ventricle. Blood in the left atrium get into left ventricle to the tricuspid and bicuspid valve. To the tricuspid and bicuspid valve. right? Then now at this instance, the atria are at the constricted manner. Now the blood is in right ventricle and the left ventricle. Now the right ventricle and left ventricle get contract. We call it as the contraction of right and left ventricles, or the systole of the ventricles. Earlier what happened was systole of the atria. Blood flows to the ventricles. Once the ventricles are filled with blood, the ventricles get contract. We call it as systole of the ventricles. Systole of the atria, then systole of the ventricles. When the ventricles get in systole, these tricuspid and bicuspid valve get closed by giving the sound lub. You can hear the sound by keeping your ear to the chest area. The lub sound occurs due to closing of tricuspid and bicuspid. It is very important to close the tricuspid and bicuspid valves to prevent the blood flowing backward. Otherwise, the blood came from the atria may go back to the atrium. To prevent that, the tricuspid and bicuspid valves get closed by giving off the sound lub. When these two ventricles get contract, blood in the right ventricle get into pulmonary artery. This pulmonary artery, they are carrying the blood to the lungs, two lungs. Blood in the right ventricle get into the pulmonary artery. Blood in the left ventricle get into the main artery of your body. We call it as the aorta. Blood in the left ventricle get into aorta. At the beginning of pulmonary artery and aorta, there's another kind of valve you see here. These valves are known as semi-lunar valves. Luna means the moon. As they are having the shape of semi-lunar, we call it semi-lunar valves. Once the blood in the right ventricle and left ventricle entered into these arteries, the next step of the heart cycle is relaxation of heart. The constricted heart gets relaxed. Then the pressure decreases. Blood in these arteries may flow backward. To prevent that, these valves, the semilunar valves, closes when the heart gets relaxed. The relaxation of heart is called as diastole. When these semilunar valves getting closed, it emit another sound, dub. Then alternatively, you can hear the lub, dub, lub, dub. This is the heartbeat you hear. Lub, dub, lub, dub. Lub, dub sound can be heard because of closing of tricuspid, bicuspid and semilunar valves alternatively. Dear children, the next part of the lesson, we are discussing about heartbeat and cardiac cycle. What you learn from this video is the composition of blood, the function of various kinds of corpuscles and the plasma, and structure of the heart. Watch your video again and try to understand each and every concept. All are very important for comprehension of lesson. And we'll be continuing the next part of the lesson with my next video. Goodbye, children.